Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and the villain of Deadpool and Wolverine is confirmed. Emma Corrin is playing Cassandra Nova, the evil twin sister to Charles Xavier. Well, kind of. It's actually something way worse. This was speculated to be the case when we talked about the Deadpool and Wolverine trailer, but now this was confirmed by the US Copyright Office that we first saw posted by Redditor user MattApple13 that lists Emma Corrin as Cassandra Nova and also oddly lists Jennifer Garner Elektra as a lot higher than I expected on that cast billing. Like, we knew she was gonna be in this movie, but I didn't assume the role would be this significant. Like, she is listed, but Matthew McFadden Paradox is not, which is just interesting. But in this video, I'm going to break down who Cassandra Nova really is beyond the little we know of her from the comics, and based on little clues the MCU has dropped about various versions of Professor X that exist in the multiverse, how Cassandra Nova fits into this plot and why she represents a crisis that the TVA needs Deadpool to fix. Like, yes, she's a cool villain, but why is she the villain of a Deadpool movie? So Cassandra Nova is one of the most terrifying villains to come out of recent Marvel comics. Introduced in May 2001 in New X-Men number 114, created by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely, she was the main antagonist of the run of New X-Men comics that would go through 2001 and 2002. We learned in this run that Cassandra Nova wasn't a naturally conceived twin to Charles Xavier, but rather something called a Mumudrai by the Shi'ar Empire, a term referring to a spirit that is the equal and opposite of a person. But since Charles Xavier was conceived with such heightened genetic potential, the Mumudrai of his fetus created a physical form gestating in the womb beside him. So fetus Charles recognized Cassandra as an evil presence and tried to kill her with his developing psychic powers, and the fight that ensued caused his mother Sharon Xavier to have a miscarriage, leading to the doctors to pronounce Cassandra a stillborn. But Cassandra survived and spent the next few decades growing as a mass of cells in a sewer, building a new physical body and swearing revenge on Charles. And while you may be wondering, why did her remains end up in a sewer? Hey, it's comics and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles shit just happens sometimes. I know, this is absolutely crazy, and this is why you need to read comics. Grant Morrison was cooking here, and you have to imagine that this was when Ryan Reynolds was an up-and-coming actor reading Marvel Comics, and when he fell in love with the Deadpool character and dreamed of one day playing Wade Wilson on film. A few years after this, Deadpool in the comics would describe himself as looking like Ryan Reynolds if he was bitten by a Shar-Pei, and his destiny was set. And for what it's worth, in Ryan Reynolds' September 2022 announcement video for a third Deadpool film, he showed himself sitting on a toilet reading Wolverine Volume 7 number 21 from May 2022, which had been the most recent Deadpool and Wolverine team up in Marvel Comics, when Deadpool and Wolverine fight Danger, the sentient female form of the Danger Room. And in that moment, he may have been signaling, we're gonna have a female villain in this movie. And the fact that Ryan Reynolds put Secret Wars number 5 from 2015 in the final shot of his trailer, an issue that shows the origin of God Emperor Doom after absorbing the powers from the Beyonders using the Molecule Men as a conduit, it's clearly very important to Ryan Reynolds that we know where he is coming from when it comes to the comics. So if that origin story of a fetal spiritual shadow self given alien nomenclature akin to Babadook or Baba Yaga seemed extreme, really what makes Cassandra Nova so terrifying is what she does when she comes back. In this 2001-2002 Grant Morrison run, Cassandra finds what's called a master mold in the jungles of South America, which can adapt existing technology into a variety of sentinels, which Cassandra, after merging with the body of Donald Trask III, the cousin to Bolivar Trask, she sends these sentinels to Genosha and uses them to commit the genocide of over 16 million mutants, including, we think, Magneto. Then she goes after the X-Men and gains control of Cerebra, Cerebro's big sister, to destroy all mutants. Emma Frost ends up snapping her neck to paralyze her, and Charles shoots her 6 times, but she survives by swapping her and Charles's mind and body, and she outs Charles and the X-Men to the world and then pieces out, leaving Earth with Lilandra to the Shi'ar Empire, where she destroys the Empire from within. And then she just continues her warpath. She's only able to be stopped when Charles's mind ambushes her in Cerebra and forces her out of his body, and then she re-enters her own dead body, but it's actually the Imperial Super Guardian shapeshifter stuff. So they wipe her mind, they begin mentally re-educating her with psychic simulations from Professor X and Jean Grey, while her body is put into an impenetrable metal box. Oof. Cassandra Nova later shows up in a few other arcs, like in X-Men Red in 2018, where Cassandra returns when Jean Grey is revived, and Cassandra stokes mutant hate crimes around the world after framing Jean Grey for making a senator's head explode at the UN. This storyline involves the microscopic sentinites that crawl into brains and make someone detect any nearby mutant and just go apeshit against them. We want to thank Geology for sponsoring this video, but also to thank them for making sure we look camera ready all day, every day. Geology is a 29-time award-winning skin, hair, and body care company recognized in Men's Health, Oprah Daily, Hypebeast, Birdie, Esquire, and GQ. Geology's products use just a handful of powerful, proven ingredients that have been trusted by dermatologists for decades. If you don't know where to start, Geology can create a simple and effective skincare or hair care routine for you. All you gotta do is take a quick 30-second quiz. Geology can help you fight acne, reduce oiliness, prevent wrinkles, combat dark or puffy under eyes, have smoother, hydrated skin, and target signs of aging. Right now, if you use code NewRockstars100, Geology will give you 100% off their award-winning skincare trial set. You'll also get an additional bonus offer of up to 30% off one skin, hair, or body product when you add it to your trial. That's 100% off plus an additional 30% off. That's a lot of off. Just click the link in the description or go to geolog.ie/rockstars100 to get started. So yeah, you can imagine Ryan Reynolds when given the opportunity to make the first R-rated MCU movie with access to all of the X-Men was like, hell yeah, we're gonna bring in Charles Xavier's genocidal twin sister, and we're gonna cast the actress best known for playing the bullied earlier era Diana Spencer on seasons 3 and 4 of The Crown on Netflix, a woman always made to feel like an outsider by the British royal family. Hey, speaking of which, we need proof of life for Kate. Now there is exactly one shot of Cassandra Nova in the trailer, about halfway through, just the back of her bald head. She wears a jacket with a high collar, and she's sitting in some kind of chair. The composition of this shot, I'm almost certain, is meant to pay homage to the visual tease of Charles Xavier in the Super Bowl trailer for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness 2 years ago, in which we saw only the back of Professor X's head and his arm as he floated into frame in his hover chair. The decision to put him in the trailer was so insane that I feel like Ryan Reynolds had to include this shot of Cassandra in the Super Bowl trailer for his summer Marvel movie. I have looped through this second and a half, I counted it, it's exactly 46 frames, trying to identify what the background is, and I'm pretty sure this blur on the right side of frame to the right of her head is the same armored vehicle we see in other parts of the Void sections of the trailer, like when Deadpool says, "Oh my fuck!" when that handcuffed TVA Minuteman gets snatched up by Goliath. It's the truck with the 6 or 8 wheels with the tow cable that seems to have the purpose of pulling a spherical cage behind it for Goliath bait. This would confirm that Cassandra Nova in this film exists in the Void, and she might even be a warlord of this version of the Void. Like Goliath might even be her pet. She decides who gets fed to the monster. Like think about that. If Cassandra Nova controlled Goliath, that would give her a dangerous amount of power over the TVA's whole waste management process. Like say she got pruned as a kind of redundant Charles Xavier, but because she has Xavier's psychic powers, she could have hijacked the Void's whole digestive process to give her effective control over it. But with Cassandra Nova in this film, along with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, we have to assume that Patrick Stewart will be appearing as Charles Xavier somewhere during the runtime. When interviewed in the past by comicbook.com and by Josh Horowitz for Happy Sad Confused, Patrick Stewart has indicated that he might be involved with the film and he was just waiting for the call at the time he was interviewed. We should remember that in the most recent scene in an MCU film that seemed to be setting up the MCU X-Men, the post-credit scene of the Marvels, Hank McCoy referenced Professor X.
My theory? You somehow crossed through a tear in space-time. You are now in a reality parallel to your own, which is, of course, impossible. Confusion is but the first step on the journey to knowledge. Charles asked for an update.
Charles asked for an update. There is a Charles in this X-Men reality where X-Men wear comic-accurate blue and yellow suits. This universe where Beast exists could be the reality where Deadpool and Wolverine's Wolverine comes from, and the Charles Xavier of that reality wants to know about a traveler from another universe in the multiverse. There was also a line all the way back in the very first X-Men film from 2000 where Professor X gave an assignment to his students about weak and strong anthropic principles.
So, I'd like your definitions of weak and strong anthropic principles on my desk on Wednesday, all right?
Weak and strong anthropic principles refer to a section of theoretical physics first proposed in 1957 by Robert Dicke that described the universe's observability and the possibility of a multiverse. So the multiverse has always been on Charles's mind. It's kind of like in the back of the mind of the Professor X we've been seeing this whole time. This Charles has been haunted by a fear that somewhere out there in the multiverse is his shadow self, his Mumu Drai, who took a physical form and is plotting her revenge. I also wonder if this concept of the Mumu Drai, even if it isn't given that exact crazy Shi'ar term in the Deadpool and Wolverine film, the concept could be used as a central premise for Wade and Logan's relationship. Wade Wilson could be Wolverine's Mumu Drai, his spiritual equal and opposite that manifested in a physical form due to their healing ability. And the reason they haven't met yet is that the TVA, or Paradox's department within the TVA, has pruned spiritual equals from any reality where their alternate exists. So Cassandra Nova was pruned from any reality where Charles Xavier Xavier exists, and Deadpool was pruned from any reality where Wolverine exists, and Wolverine was pruned from any reality where Deadpool exists. But since these equals are cosmically intertwined, they've always been cosmically aware of their other halves. I just believe that Cassandra Nova needs a thematic reason to be the villain in a Deadpool movie, and not just be a badass genocidal X-Men killer that Wade has to deal with. Remember, in the 2016 movie, Francis represented the cruel experiments that turned Wade into a freak, and while Wade couldn't die and felt every injury, Francis couldn't feel any pain, making that thematic. In the 2018 sequel, Cable was a time assassin who represented Wade's obsession with destiny. Cassandra Nova being in this movie has to tell us something about Deadpool's relationship with Wolverine, and I think that connection is her cosmic relationship with Charles Xavier, making her, alongside Wade, a fellow existential accident that the TVA labels as a paradox and erases from memory, banishing them to this hell and filling them with lifelong rage. Comment down below with what role you think Cassandra Nova will play in Deadpool and Wolverine, and support new Rockstars by grabbing one of these Xavier Institute shirts at nerdriot.shop. Follow me at EA Voss and subscribe to new Rockstars, and subscribe to the Deep Dive, which is alive once again with an amazing analysis of the Two Towers. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.